Why do kids lie? Why is lying so common in childhood? If you're a parent, you've been there. When you ask your child, "Did you eat those cookies?" and they shake their head and say no, and you say, "Well, you've got cookie crumbs all over your face," and they say, "Well, you must have put it on there." We're taught as children to tell the truth, but we're also taught that sometimes the blunt truth isn't so great. So as a child, they're beginning to explore social boundaries, and part of that exploration is understanding different social perspectives. That people can have a different view or different perspectives from us. Well, what's the role of your brain and working memory when it comes to lying in childhood? There was very little research on this topic, and I wanted to understand that, both as a psychologist and as a parent of young children. When you tell a lie, it involves working memory. You have to use your memory to keep multiple pieces of information in mind. What you've said, what you think the other person said, and keep track of how to merge those two pieces of information. It's a huge memory burden. We wanted to know what lying and memory look like in 6 and 7-year-olds. Lying is a relatively common behavior in children. The interesting thing about this study is that we wanted to look at the relationship between lying and the role of working memory, our ability to remember and process information. So first thing we did was tested their working memory. Then we asked them a series of questions. And for the last question, we asked them something special that would definitely catch them in a lie. We asked them what the main character in a made-up cartoon Spaceboy was. Since it was made up, there was no right or wrong answer. But we wrote the right answer at the back of a card and put it on the table in front of them. And then we left the room and told them not to peek. You can imagine most of them peeked. But here's the interesting thing. When we came back into the room and asked them if they peeked, the majority of the children lied and said no. And here's where working memory comes in. The children with good working memory were better able to remember what they said and come up with a plausible explanation for how they knew the right answer. They would say things like, "Oh, it's my favorite cartoon. I watch it every Saturday." The children with poor working memory had a harder time covering their tracks. They often mumbled or would put their head down and just say, "Oh, I don't know, I just remembered the answer." So we see that working memory was really important in coming up with a good and believable lie. So what does this mean for you as a parent? First of all, we know working memory is really important in lying because they need working memory to keep track of all the different pieces of information. And next, do all kids lie? Well, in our study, we found that if the child looked at the card when they weren't supposed to, they lied. Why do they lie? When they're young, they lie to avoid punishment. As we get older, we learn to lie for social reasons. We don't want to hurt someone's feelings, so we tell a little white lie. And finally, not every child is a good liar. We found in our study that those with good working memory were good liars because they could keep track of all that information. They were also better able to control their body language so they weren't revealing that they were lying. The kids with poor working memory often had those reveals, like the hair touching or looking away as they were trying to make up a plausible explanation. The good news is, lying behavior does decrease as children get older. There's less social reinforcement for lying. So in the playground, no one wants to play with the kid who tells lies all the time. So take heart. If your child is telling fibs right now, they will eventually grow out of it. Plus, you know they're smart. Here are your tone takeaways. Lying is common in children. Working memory plays a role in lying. Lying does decrease with age.